Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Let's talk about some psychedelic tinged albums from the early 70s. So as psychedelia was starting to wane a little bit in the late 60s and more roots music was coming up with the likes of the band and Dylan's John Wesley Harding, the Stones Beggars Banquet, etc. There were some acts that were still kind of holding on a little bit to some psychedelic touches in their albums. So we're going to focus on some early 70s albums that have a little bit of tinge of psychedelia throughout. These are not like psychedelic albums per se, but there's touches of psychedelia. So I'm going to start off here with a doozy from 71. What an amazing album this is. Funkadelic's Maggot Brain. God, this album is just unbelievably good. It just gets better with each listen over the years. So starts off with the title track, and of course, legend has it that George Clinton instructed guitarist Eddie Hazel to play like his mother had just died, and that's what it sounds like. There's something really transcendent about the solo. It's just absolutely freaking amazing. It just goes on, and it's mournful, and just there's really nothing quite like it. The rest of the album is just life-affirming cuts throughout. Can You Get to That? It's such a great track. Hit It and Quit It. You and Your Folks, Me and My Folks. Super Stupid, Back in Our Minds, and it ends with just the incredibly funky, just heavy-duty Wars of Armageddon. Incredible album here. Lots of little psych touches throughout here, especially with the title track. This is the CD version, obviously, so there's a few bonus tracks that are pretty cool. One track called A Whole Lot of BS. Another one called I Miss My Baby. And an alternate version of the title track, Maggot Brain. So little example of some early 70s tinged psych. Here's a really good example. This is my favorite album by this band. Really hard to classify this band. They're all over the map musically. I think this album is near perfect. I mean, it is just an incredible listen. Spirits, 12 Dreams of Dr. Sargonicus. One thing about Spirit, sometimes I can't tell who's singing. Is it Randy California on certain songs, or is it Jay Ferguson? I can't remember per song who's doing what. Their harmonies are great. But there are so many great tracks on here. My favorite track on here, though, very, very psychedelic tinged, is a track called, oh God, what is it called? Love Has Found a Way. Love Has Found a Way. Has this kind of backward track of percussion going on, and it sounds kind of like, well, like a lot of things like the Beatles would do with Penny Lane, that kind of sound. But the melody, and there's like a little bit of vibraphone in there, and it's just absolute frigging magic, that track. I love that track. Of course, Nature's Way is on here. It's got some airplay back in the day, I think still does on some certain classic rock stations. Some of these psychedelic tinges appear in like Street Worm, Space Child. That last track, Soldier, is amazing. Animal Zoo. There's just one great track after another. Animal Zoo, Morning Will Come, Mr. Skin. Why Can I Be Free? Just another incredible track. So yeah, another album from the early 70s, 1970, with a little bit of psychedelic tinge is Spirits, 12 Dreams of Dr. Sargonicus. So good, so good. So one of the most amazing movies I've seen in the past 15 to 20 years is Searching for Sugar Man, about Rodriguez. I think that was one of the most, like, 1 in a billion type of stories, right? Like, how could that even happen? Just incredible. This guy, he puts out 2 albums, very, very obscure albums, and just goes back and does like hard labor, right? Doing like heavy lifting and stuff like that. Completely disappears off the map. People thought he killed himself. And then unknown to him, he gained this huge following in Africa, South Africa, I believe. And they looked at this album, Cold Fact, as sort of like a prophetic album. They kind of looked at him as like this leader. He had no idea what was going on. Long story short, reporters went down there. They found out he had this huge following that was almost as big as Elvis. And so we're holding this album up here, Cold Fact. There's definitely some psych tinges on here. This is an amazing album. The Sugar Man track that starts it off, there's really nothing bad on here. Only good for conversation. Crucify Your Mind, Hate Street Dialogue, Gomorrah, and a nursery rhyme is really twisted and weird. Gina's Pity, Rich Folks Hope. This is just a fantastic record. And I think I saw his second album years ago. I forgot what it's called. His second, Coming From Reality. I think after I discovered seeing these albums, I think I remember seeing Coming From Reality in a used bin at Rhino Records when they used to have these outdoor record sales. I remember seeing that album thinking, oh, that's probably a turd, that record. You know, just the cover was just, you know, nothing to look at, but fantastic record. And so is Cold Fact. If you've never heard these Rodriguez albums, pull them up. They're so good. And it's such an amazing story. If you've never seen Searching for Sugar Man, it's a must, an absolute must. It's a really good, it's a feel-good movie. It makes you feel good. And anyway, Rodriguez, Cold Fact, another example on today's topic. Another one too is that's really grown on me over the years in a big way. I love this album. This is such a great chill, just kickback record. Is David Crosby's "If I Could Only Remember My Name," his first debut solo album, and I think his best, no doubt about it. A lot of these songs, they sound just kind of like freeform jams, but the harmonies for me are what really, really get me on this album. These really subtle harmonies and these really cool chords, kind of jazz chords that are going on in some of the songs. Let's go over a few of these tracks, shall we? Because they're just so damn amazing. So yeah, Music Is Love starts it off fantastic. Cowboy Movie. The Laughing on the last track on side 4 is incredible. Side 2 I think is even better. Where Are Their Names is really kind of foreboding sounding and strange. Traction in the Rain, Song with No Words, Orleans, and I'd Swear There Was Somebody Here. Incredible album. I used to kind of write David Crosby off his solo career, and I kind of had this in my collection for years, and I finally decided to like just check it out. And one day I had it on the headphones, and it blew my mind how good it was. Of all, you know, I've only heard just a fraction of certain albums by Crosby, Stills, and Nash, their solo career. I have to say this is the best one I've heard of all those three guys solo. So yeah, If I Could Only Remember My Name, Crosby, from 71, I believe. I always liked the Canterbury scene in the late 60s, early 70s, the Prague Canterbury scene. This would fit right into our today's topic. Caravans in the Land of Grey and Pink. A little bit of psych flourishes throughout. Very whimsical type album. Really, really amazing playing, led by Richard Sinclair, who would later go on to form an even better band, in my opinion, Hatfield and the North. If you've never heard Hatfield and the North's first album or the Rotters Club, you must pull those up online. This, of all the Caravan albums I've heard, is my favorite. Has a great flow to it. Golf Girl, Winter Wine, in the Land of Grey and Pink. Just amazing musicianship going on in here. So another example for today's video. Another one we're going to pull in is Sly the Family Stones. There's a Riot going on. This sounds very druggy, very kind of, there's definitely some psych weirdness going on in this album. I've talked about this album almost ad nauseum over the past couple of years, so I will not go into it. But I think it's just a really like, it's a listen like no other. I can see why some people are kind of turned off by it. It's just one of those albums you just have to listen to, repeated listens. There's amazing tracks on there. You got Family Affair, which was the single, Running Away, You Caught Me Smiling, which are totally accessible songs, along with Spaced Out Cowboy, and Thank You for Talking to Me Again, Africa, I believe that's what it's called. That's a really, really cool closer, great beat. But another example of an album here from the early 70s with some definite psych tinges going on. We got to throw this one in here. This either people love or hate. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think there's some highs and some lows on here, and that is Sid Barrett's The Madcap Laughs from 70. Produced and pretty much taken care of by Roger Waters and David Gilmour. This thing would have never happened without those two producing and helping out. There's some tracks in here I really dig. One called Dark Globe, which REM would cover once in a while live back in the 80s. Love You, Terrapin is great. I mean, it's a mixed bag, but I think the best moments are really cool. It's kind of similar to like Skip Spence's Or album. It definitely sounds like a mind pretty much deteriorating, but there's something engaging about it at the same time. So anyway, The Madcap Laughs from 70 from Sid Barrett. definitely, I'd say half of this I really, really dig. And last but not least, I always thought this album, even as a very young child, I always thought this album had a very kind of psych vibe to it. Not every song, but there's definitely some psych tinges all over Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. Starting off with Don't Go Near the Water, which is an incredible opener that has those kind of touches. Long Promised Road, Take a Load Off Your Feet is definitely some like a Weird Al Jardine little track. I think probably the most psychedelic tinge song on here is Feel Flows by Carl Wilson, without a doubt. That is such an amazing track. And then I think Al Jardine's, one of his greatest tracks, Looking at Tomorrow, a welfare song. This acoustic track with these really dark kind of foreboding instrumentation going on, just real subtle in the background, is really an amazing track and very psych tinged. And then I've talked about the last two tracks ad nauseum over the years. I think they're the best Beach Boy songs ever. Till I Die, Surf's Up. So we won't talk about that, but this is definitely an early 70s album with psych tinges, and I think this is probably their most psych album, if there is one in the Beach Boys catalog. Some people might say Pet Sounds. I don't really think there's much psych on that. Maybe I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, maybe that track. Maybe another track or two, but anyway, this one really, I think, really pronounces the psych vibe the best. The Beach Boys, Surf's Up. If you have any more to throw into the list, please do put those in the comment section, more titles. As always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you dig the content, press subscribe. It's absolutely free. And we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.